Oh, hello, you're here, are you? David at DSS UK, and you're joining me on it's a Friday afternoon still. I'm sure I'm supposed to be working. Mind you, the day hasn't gone according to plan because our materials delivery didn't turn up on Wednesday or Thursday. It still hasn't turned up today either, so that job got scrubbed. Anyway, a little impromptu, unscripted, unthought of video here. So I was just looking at my collection of testers, and I've got a couple of interesting new ones in the collection to show off. Oh yes, hold on to your hats. The weather forecast is for rain this Friday night, so come on, you've got nothing better to do. Although by the time I've edited this, it'll probably be Sunday afternoon and sunny, in which case you probably have got something better to do. Anyway, when I joined the industry 10 years ago, when it came to MFTs, the debate was largely Megger versus Fluke. Do you buy Megger? Do you buy Fluke? And you'll find all sorts of old forums where people go on off on a tangent discussing whether Megger or Fluke ought to be the tester of your choice. And you know what? Of course, they are venerable, trusty, solid brands. You can't go wrong with Megger and Fluke, can you? Generally. I think both have seen some recalls and some problems and some complaints, etc. But that's par for the course for any manufacturer of mass market electronic equipment. And of course, I cut my teeth on this, or what is it, Megger 1552, or is it the 1553? It's the 1552. I always think it's 1553, and I'm slightly disappointed because it's the 2, and I think I don't have the phase rotation. Anyway, solid bit of kit. Solid bit of kit. Did me proud for years. And then, you know how the bug just sort of bites you one day and you think, I want to play with something slightly different. So I picked this up second hand. This is a Fluke 1651B. Can't show you it working. There's no batteries in it. Again, good solid bit of kit. This was second hand. Both of these were second hand. And, you know, it did the job. Not for too long, actually. I don't know why, I just, this doesn't have automatic RCD operation, so you've got to go through and run through your gamut of tests manually, which is something I didn't realise when I bought it, and I got it and I was like, oh, bugger, because that the old Megger did. But other than that, it's pretty much the same spec, and perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that. It started, I was getting a few spurious results, however, which I think may be down to leads rather than anything else. It probably wasn't the tester, but I've just never really investigated further to find out. So anyway, in 2017 I decided to treat myself to a brand new tester. And rather, at that time, for going for the do I go Megger or do I go Fluke, I thought, well, I'll go for something that nobody else has got, and I couldn't find any reviews on this stuff, so that's a bit of a gamble, isn't it? Because you know you probably ought to go for something that's well reviewed, tried, tested, everybody knows it. And I thought, no, you know what, I'm going to take a punt and blow my beans on a Metrel. This being the MI3100S, the Metrel MI3100S, and an excellent instrument it is too. Looks exactly the same as a Martindale ET4500, is it? Something like that. So I don't know if it's just the case that differs or the batteries have run out. I can't show you much on that. Still, we've done very well with that. And that has probably remained my most capable tester to date, at least that I bought with my own cash. The range of functions is more complete than on those two testers. It tests type A RCDs, for example. It has auto testing, has phase rotation, has a lovely dot matrix rather than LCD display. Well, there probably is a dot matrix LCD, but you know what I mean. Instead of fixed characters, it's dot matrix, so it can display different functions, features. It has a nice bright display with big numbers, which is what you want to see, especially as your eyesight starts going with old age. What I don't like is the proprietary connector on top, which precludes me from sticking your ordinary banana plugs in. That's one thing that gave me pause for thought when I was buying it, is do I want to commit to something that has a proprietary connector? However, in all the years I've only had to change my lead set on it once, and it was no less expensive than if I were to have bought decent quality leads from any other brand. marvellous. And then, only a year or so later, this one appeared, the TIS MFT Pro. And I was rather swung by the curious form factor. I was like, that's an interesting thing. Isn't that an interesting thing? I want to see more of what this can do. Does that display probably doesn't show up very well on the camera. There's a colour screen display. The colour screens on these things do tend to eat through the batteries a little bit, but as I've said before, Eneloop batteries are rather marvellous, and I don't find I have to recharge this all too often. When I got it, it was very shiny and new, and it's beaten the hell up these days, and that's because it lives in my Ultimate Electrician's Toolbox. There's a video about that, of course. And that's the Metro lives in the sort of the case for the diagnostic stuff. This one actually lives in the toolbox, and it sort of looks like it too. It's been beaten up over the years, but nonetheless a rather marvellous and capable instrument. It's the only one I've got that does earth leakage, although to be honest, if you're going to do earth leakage, you're probably better off with a dedicated earth leakage clamp meter. This is a cheapo one. I've got a more capable one, but that one sits there on my Barrett Sing loops for me to play with on this array of awfulness going on here. So yes, the MFT Pro, very capable and does the job for me generally. I in a video a couple of videos back, I was questioning whether I may have a fault with this or not, because I was out on site and couldn't get any continuity out of it. Been all right since. So again, it may be a lead on its way out, something like that, rather than tester itself. I'll have to watch this space on that, but yes, a mighty fine and mighty curiously shaped instrument. And I've just got one more before I launch into my new two. This is on loan from Metrol. It's been on loan for a while now. This is the Metrol MI3152. Yes, MI3152. Now this is definitely the most capable out of all the testers around me here. This does a lot of things that the other testers don't do. Things like EV charge point testing. Hopefully I've got a video coming up showing that soon. What else we got here? We've got a memory. It's the only one I've got with a memory, so you can actually store and download data, although I tend not to. It's still got the proprietary connector. I've just noticed, actually, I never noticed that. It's got two banana ports there. I wonder if they actually work as alternative ports. I'm going to test that right now by doing a continuity test. Because this checkbox here is set up for continuity. No, it's not. I don't know what they do. I should have looked at that before I started blathering on this video. Never mind. A mighty fine instrument, a very expensive instrument, a bit of a battery chomper. I think that's the biggest complaint people seem to make with this on social media, is that it doesn't half chomp through your AA batteries. Again, if you stick in some decent Eneloops and not some cheapo rubbish, then it's not too bad. You may find you have to, if you're sort of inspecting, testing day in, day out, you may have to recharge overnight, but it does charge quickly. So as long as you're on top of that, it ought not to be too bothersome. Very nice. We've shown this in a couple of videos, not doing much more than continuity and insulation resistance testing, but hopefully some EV testing coming up quite soon. However, two new instruments, new to me anyway, have come my way. So let's have a play with those. Now, I did a video recently talking about the Robin separates. Mighty fine little things too. A lot of people like those, very nostalgic for them. And I mentioned in that video that in my searching around, I was quite interested in the form factor of the Uni-T UT595. I don't know why. It's different form factors of instruments interest me in a very sad and depressing way. But the Uni-T one, I just thought, well, that looks like a nice form. There's something I like about that form factor. And I'm indebted to Safeguard Electrical Services on Instagram, who pointed out that such a device was going on eBay, not as a Uni-T UT595, but as a Robin Amprobe KTS 1625. Look looks like same box, rebadged. What do you think about that? And I have to say, I was right. I do like that form factor. There's just something about that. It's the compactness, the lovely square shape. I don't know. That's my favourite shape, I think. Favourite shape out of the testers. And for an old man like me, dials I understand better than touchscreens. Although I can drive these other instruments, of course. But you know where you are with the dial. You know what it's pointing at. Let's have a little play with this, put it through its paces a little bit. What's interesting with this is that it is branded as a Robin amp probe. I've got to try and hold that so that the various lights in here don't all reflect on the screen and blur it out. But it's branded as a Robin amp probe. The amp probe brand actually belongs to a company called BHA. I might be pronouncing that wrong. A German company that's been around since 1974, as of high. The guy who started the company sold his shares to Fluke in 2003, and in 2006 BHA acquired Amprobe, which is an American company who tend to make amp clamps. Excuse me. Fluke also tried to acquire Robin, I believe, in the 90s, but didn't manage to sort of get them out right. I think they got the rights to use their name, according to Sean Dempsey, a contributor to this channel, got the rights to use the Robin brand, but a lot of the Robin staff went and set up shop elsewhere and founded Q-Tech in conjunction with the Japanese firm Kyoritsu, which is why you find things like this thing here, which is a Kyoritsu Q-Snap 2040. And you can see it's in Q-Tech colours. So Q-Tech, Kyoritsu, same stuff, but a lot of their Robin stuff, their Robin separates, got rebranded as Q-Tech, and instead of the yellow casing got turned into the Q-Tech green and grey. As I say, Sean Dempsey is the man with the history on that. But that's the link between Amprobe and Robin, is Fluke. Fluke's in the middle there. So Fluke have come along and they've used the Robin brand and they've used the Amprobe brand, as they have access to both, to come up with this rather marvellous little instrument here, which is rather rare. You still get Robin Amprobe devices. They tend to be the separates still, though. The separates like the Robins of old. So an MFT branded as Robin Amprobe, you don't see many of those around, do you? Let's just plug in. This is quite interesting as well, in that the Uni T I was looking at does phase rotation. This doesn't, but if I turn it on, if you look at the LCD, especially around this area, if I can get it so that you can see the LCD, you'll see that, oh, I don't know how quickly, the functions for phase rotation are briefly shown in the lamp test as it turns on. You've got your phase arrows there, and you've got your L1, L2, L3. Now there's no function for those on this instrument because this is a single phase only, it won't do phase rotation, but it's all built into the LCD, so it's obviously a common part that was made for an instrument that did have phase rotation. It's got a backlight, a white backlight. I've seen some, I think, older models that perhaps had a blue backlight, which is interesting. This should give us, we're on a 5 ohm setting on the checkbox, and 5 ohms we've got. Marvellous, marvellous. Let's do some live tests. But as I say, I just, I'm going colourblind in the old age as well, I think. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Obviously I'm on a dead test setting, and I've just plugged it into a live socket, which is why it's giving me that warning tone, which is nice. Let's go for an auto RCD test, 30 milliamps, 30 milliamps. It supports type A RCDs, as well as type AC. So again, I'm interested to know if anybody know out there what sort of date this came from. This has got to be fairly late in 17th edition, early 18th edition. It's got to be like within the last 5 years or so. I'm just curious as to why it disappeared so quickly, why it's not a thing. It's an obsolete model. They obviously didn't follow it up with any new MFT. I've never seen one before. I don't know if anybody else has. Let's just run through the RCD test. So we're going to do an auto test. We're on an auto test, aren't we? Yes, we are. That's the half times test. It's going to do that again. And now we're into the 1 times test. It's nice and fast, isn't it? Lovely stuff. And if we use the recall button, we can scroll through and just recall what those numbers were. Very similar to how my old Megger worked. In that it would show one result at a time, and then you'd have to use the button on the top to scroll through them. I can't remember which button it was now. Was it the red one? I forget, it's been so long since I used this. The only thing, one thing I like about the Megger that doesn't do is that when you're running a test, the backlight comes on automatically. So any second now, there we go, nice green backlight. Whereas that you have to press the backlight button to bring it on. Although it seems to stay on when it is on. Probably eats through the batteries fairly quickly. Let's stick it on a loop test. No trip. Got a lightning flash up the corner there to indicate that it's got power, and I'm going to hit go, clickety click. And I must say, out of all the testers I've got, this one's pretty glacial in coming up with a number. It's perhaps the slowest out of all of them. And that's a problem, because that number's a load of nonsense. Should be getting 0.65, not something near an ohm. Calibration's an interesting thing, isn't it? No! What do you mean, no? Of course it is. I always wondered with calibration whether it was a case of, are they just ticking boxes really? Are they just taking your tester, charging you 60 quid and going, yeah, sure, it's calibrated, here's a certificate to prove it. And you know, it's kind of like, if you were to then come back 3 days later and say, oh, my instrument's spouting nonsense, you said it was calibrated, they would just go, oh, well, maybe you've dropped it since, or maybe it's gone out of calibration since. On the day we calibrated it, it was fine, mate, and all that kind of stuff, like an MOT on a car or something. You kind of think, how valid is this going forward? So shout out to Joshua, who was out with us 2 weeks ago on a van. We were using this on a site, and it was just at the end of its calibration. Because I got this off eBay. I should also say a shout out to, if I haven't done it already, Safeguard Electrical Services. I think I've already said them, for pointing out that it was on eBay. So I got it off eBay and it was still at the end of its calibration from previously, from last year. So we were using it on site, and we were using it to test I think it was a cooker circuit. Or it might have been a socket, I can't remember what it was now, but we were getting 0.6 out of it, and it was like, well, out of a cooker circuit, it's only a short run from there to there, why are we getting such a high number? So we broke out the calibrated metrol, and that gave us a number of 0.27, which was far more similar to far more closer to what we were expecting. So that sort of put it in my mind that maybe this is talking a bit of nonsense on its loop testing. Eddie's happened to have a calibration day the following week, so I took it along, and they duly phoned up and said, I'm afraid your little Robin Am probe has failed calibration. I hadn't given them a heads up that I thought it was going to be problematic. I just thought, I'll hand it over and I'll just see what happens, just see what they come back with. And they came back saying it's failed calibration on the loop setting, and I thought, okay, so someone has actually sat there and looked at it and gone through it and checked it and had the balls to say, sorry mate, that's no good. And I don't think they charged me for doing it either, so it's not like they're charging for the testing process. You're basically only paying if you're passing, or at least that was what they did for me. So that was nice. So it's not necessarily a bullshit exercise, as one might think. It has a validity, and in this case, they rightly pointed out that this is not reporting correctly on loop, which is a mighty shame, because everything else on it works just perfectly. So I can't, unfortunately, chuck this in my toolbox for daily use. It's for indication only, and it's for its good looks and charm. But if anybody knows any more about this particular instrument, I'd be interested to hear the comments, especially if you've had problems with it, or if you know a fix for it. I did contact parts.co.uk, because they say they service Robin equipment, and said how much for repair, and they said sorry mate, we can't repair it. It's they don't make the parts anymore, which I thought was a bit odd, because I'm sure it's not like it's some custom silicon that's gone in there. It's got to be something that can be twiddled or replaced. I know I was talking to Andrew Hills, another fan of the channel, who has been repairing some MFTs, and I'll come on to that in a moment. And he said that on some of the ones he's repaired, he's had to replace the resistor inside that gets used as part of the no trip function. So it might be worth cracking this open one day and just having a bit of a look in there, because it might be a part that can be replaced. But it'd be interesting to see, because as I say, that form factor, I don't know why, I've just got a spring on for it. Anyway, speaking of Andrew Hills, he has sent me this very generously, which is an Ethos 8400. Now, I've never played with an Ethos before. That's a very light thing. Very light. There's obviously a lot of air inside there. I've never played with an Ethos before, so you'll have to let me know what you think of Ethos. But this seems to be quite a nice instrument again. Obviously on the cheaper end of the scale, but that's all right so long as, you know, it reports accurately, and it seems to be very well featured for the price point. Let's have a look at some of those features, shall we? I'm just going to switch it to continuity. You'll see that it has a lovely clear colour screen, and if I press the test button, so 5 ohm, oh, for the fuck. Sorry, I had my lead in the wrong hole. The old wrong hole gag. Right, okay, let's do that again. We should get about 5 ohms out of this checkbox, 5.17. Marvellous, the battery indicator is flashing. So let's hope that that holds out long enough for us to do a few tests with it. Let's put it onto the live side of the checkbox. This is rather marvellous, watch this. Oh, that's great, isn't it? You get a flashing red light and a red screen because it's on a dead test and you've plugged it into a live source. Super. Here's a nice little function. Socket test. We're not talking about, so we're talking about polarity here. So basic socket test like you get for socket tester. And if I screw up that socket test, again, we get a indication as to what's gone wrong there. Open earth and a flashing red light again. That's clever, isn't it? I like that. That's the only instrument I've got that has a sort of basic socket test function. No trip. Yes, we're on no trip. Now we knew that the amp probe was reporting high. 0.66. That is what I would expect coming out of the checkbox here. I've tested it against the calibrated Metrol earlier. So the loop test on this is working fine. That the amp probe, you may remember, the Robin was reporting nearer an ohm. That's how far out it is. So that's rather wonderful. Let's go to automatic RCD testing at 30 milliamps. And it runs through, reporting each number as it happens. It's a lovely display on that, isn't it? Nice big clear numbers. A little slower than the Robin, but you know, it's perfectly acceptable. Again, this supports Type A, Type AC RCDs. And at the end of it, we get a summary. Oh, what's the angle of that camera? It's rather wonderful, isn't it? I like that. Phase rotation, of course, I'm only single phase here. And then you've just got your normal insulation, continuity, etc. tests. RCD support, 100 milliamp, 30 milliamp, 500 milliamp, 300. So it's, you know, it seems to be pretty well featured. Of course, I can't speak to, just like that, can't speak to its reliability or how robust it may be. It does feel light. That's not necessarily a bad thing. As long as the PCB in there is well protected against shocks and drops and that sort of stuff. I think, you know, if you were starting out and you needed a fairly capable tester, that seems to tick a few boxes. I must admit though that Andrew, who sent me this, he said he bought a job lot of, I think it was 4 off eBay that were all faulty, and he's been going through repairing them. So I'm not sure what the nature of the repairs are. He did say, I think he was also saying about the resistor having to be replaced for some of the no-trip stuff. So whether that's an indication that, you know, these may not be terribly robust, or whether it's just a case of he happened to pick up 4 Duff ones just as easily as he could have perhaps picked up 4 Duff Meggers or something like that. I don't know, but blimey, there's a weight difference between those. But you know, that's a nice sort of pretty well featured tester. And just to quickly end this talking about cases, I'm pleased to see the Ethos comes in a hard case. It's not as good as the standard Fluke hard case. I don't know if there used to be a tote in there or not. Again, let me know in the comments if you have one. I find the tote tray in the Fluke boxes to be jolly handy for keeping all your bits and bobs and extra spares and stuff, but hard case, that's what you want. Similarly, the Robin also comes with quite a nice little case. Basic as it comes, really, except, you know, it's a hard case, and these cases will survive better on the van than the soft cases, and it's annoying that, you know, you get something that this is the sort of the top of the range out of all these and the most expensive, and yet it's got perhaps the crappiest case of them all, the soft case, which I got over there somewhere. And the one that came with this, I actually keep my camera in, and it's knackered, and you know, that's just been supporting my little video camera out on the van, but even that has been not enough. So if you're investing in any of this sort of equipment, you've really got to make sure you get a decent case to put it in. But yes, I just thought I'd show them off, since it's nothing else to do on a Friday. Alright, we're getting the party started at Savery. Oh yes, the Friday night smoke machine, disco lights and beer up has begun. It's kind of still Friday afternoon really, but you know, the night is young. Just the beer shout outs to do, so I shall run through those. Some very generous contributions since that last Amendment 2 video. God, that was a pain to make, that was really a long one to make. Unlike this, which has been knocked out in no time at all, as you can tell by the awful presentation. On the Virgin list we have Mark Swift. Welcome to the party, Mark. We also have RLF Vacuum Cleaners of Lakenheath, who apparently sat through my Pat video. I'm glad somebody did. That was another one that was quite hard work to put together. Darren B, again, welcome to the party, Darren. Mine's a large one. Cheers, mate. We have Oliver the Hog Dunmore, who praises me on the above average content. I've probably just let you down on this one. Sorry, Oliver the Hog Dunmore. Ian, who notices that the buy me a beer thing is all in odd numbers. Yeah, it's weird that, isn't it? It's like 3, 5 or whatever. He wonders whether Nigel and I will ever start swinging handbags at each other over that, but don't worry. For every one Nigel has, I have at least 4. So, you know, it always ends up as odd numbers. Oh, blimey, I might have had one too many already. Stephen HEPPLE at Bespoke Electrical, who found the Amendment 2 video useful. I'm glad somebody did. Brad did as well. Thank you, Brad, for your contribution. And another virgin to add to the list is YODA, who rather mistakenly says that stuff on this channel is good content. Okay, well, there's no accounting for taste, is there? On the whores list we have Andy Hills, and obviously a special mention to Andy because he is the man who sent me the Ethos, so at least half of this video wouldn't exist if it wasn't for our man Andy. Oh. Just wait for that to settle a little bit. Donovan's Alarms. Is there a better alarm company? No, seriously, is there a better alarm company? Because I want to know. But Donovan's Alarms, very generous. We've had some contributions from him since December last year, actually. Newly promoted to the Whores list is our man Steve BLOOR. So welcome to the Whores, Mr. BLOOR. Ollie, who says, cheers, big ears. Same to you, Ollie. Liberato del GRECO, or AZZURRI Electrical, who advises me to spend the money on something nice. Sorry, it's Carlsberg. It's about the only thing I can put away these days that won't smash me the next morning. Oh, hey! Darren BRIDDOCK. Yes, Darren BRIDDOCK, the big cheese at Electrical and Test. Nice to hear from you again, Darren. Chris Dansaf, who was another generous contributor. He actually contributed this fused isolator here. That's upon my wall. So Biker Chris Dansaf. Nice to hear from you again, Chris. John Townsend. Thank you very much, John, for your contribution. Derek H, who found the label design video, the Ultimate Test and Inspect label, to be useful. I must send mine to the printers. I've got to do that. I've got it all lined up. I've just got to send the email off. Newly promoted to the Whores list is Paul SM, or Paul Smur. We weren't sure how to say it last time. We're still not sure how to say it. And Chris Billy at C. Billy Electrical Services, who has had some NAPIT assessment bothers. They keep moving the assessment date. I'm sorry to hear that, Chris. And as you say, maybe NRC the blade to go next year. And finally, Mr. Humbug, who has made 2 contributions, one to cover the VAT, because I'm now getting butt fucked on VAT by HMRC. Thank you to anyone at HMRC. In fact, if you work for HMRC and you want to book me for electrical services, you're going to get a special VAT rate. It won't be 20%, that's for damn sure. Oh. And as I say, special mention to Sean Dempsey for his information on Robin. Sean has the inside knowledge on the history of Robin. To Safeguard Electrical Services for pointing out the Robin and probe on eBay. Thank you very much for pointing that out. That was the best part of 200 quid that I'm not getting back on a tester that is faulty. And finally to Joshua Ralph, who was out with us a couple of weeks ago and who pointed out that the Robin amp probe was faulty. Cheers, Joshua. Right, well, thank you all very much for your contributions. Most generous. Time to turn up the amps, annoy the neighbours, and, well, just crack on with Friday night.